Now there's a surprise. Having said that they won't put up taxes, our new Labour government is going to, checks notes, put up taxes. According to today's papers, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves has found a £19 billion black hole in the public finances. I can't believe that Reeves didn't see this coming. After all, we're being told every 10 minutes that she used to work for the Bank of England. Has the person who is now in charge of the country's finances lost the art of counting? Did it not raise any flags before the election that in May alone of this year we borrowed an extra £18 billion just to keep the lights on? Did it escape the new Chancellor's attention that we borrowed £500 billion and put the economy on hold for 2.5 years in a disastrous attempt to stop a virus, measures supported by Labour only on their watch? We would have had more, not less. Only now the Chancellor discovers that the country is a bit skint. What else hasn't she noticed? That Posh Spice is a bit thin? That's not Elton John's real hair? That the Pope is a big fan of Catholicism? That Keir Starmer's dad used to be a toolmaker? I know. What a revelation. This idea of an unexpected black hole doesn't wash with the respected and politically neutral Paul Johnson, the director of the Institute of Fiscal Studies, who said Labour's claim that this is a surprise is not credible. Well, of course it's not. This is spin and political cover for what will be an autumn tax raid, including potentially corporation tax, inheritance tax and council tax. Labour's promise not to raise VAT, income tax and national insurance is an empty promise if they're going to tax other things. It's like a burglar saying, don't worry, I'm not going to steal your car, but I will break into your house and take your jewellery, your laptop and your collection of Nigel Farage memorabilia. What Labour need to do is to stand up to the unions and show wage restraint. They need to boost productivity in the workforce and they need to reform welfare. Instead, they're just going to squeeze more blood out of an empty stone, which will make Britain, over time, a less attractive place to work, invest and live. In the end, wealth creators who pay for our public services will up sticks and take their money, their businesses and their investment elsewhere, which will no doubt come as another surprise to our new Chancellor. Meanwhile, chaos in France on the eve of the Olympics as vandalism to its rail infrastructure has seen disruption to thousands of trains, including Eurostar. The French rail system has ground to a halt with delays and cancellations, with many suspecting it's a dirty tricks campaign by none other than Vladimir Putin, whose athletes were banned from the event. Maybe that would explain for the rail chaos that we've seen in this country for the last few years. Forget about Mick Lynch and his striking RMT. Perhaps it's Vladimir Putin that's been running British Rail all along. Meanwhile, John Lewis have won a planning application to build 353 flats in South London as part of their plans to become one of the country's biggest housing developers. That's right, John Lewis of all people. Folk are already queuing up to buy flats in what has been nicknamed the Waitrose Tower, in what's expected to become the most middle-class block of flats in the world. The building will be organic, made with pasture-raised bricks and painted with free-range paint that was free to roam on a sunny pasture. The roof will be made of recycled couscous and flats will come with a supply of hot and cold water and another tap just for Prosecco. Presumably, these properties will never be knowingly undersold.
Ooh.
There you go. I'm here all week. OK, folks, let's get reaction to all of the big stories of the day in the company of Liz Kershaw, Reem Ibrahim and Alex Dyke. Liz, let me start with you. First of all, this black hole that Labour are complaining about, I'm not having it. This is a smokescreen. They were planning tax rises all along.
Well, I read several commentators in newspapers before the election, the surprise result, saying what'll happen is Labour will get in, then they'll pretend that they didn't realise how bad we were financially in this country, and that will be their excuse to say, oh, yeah, we promised not to raise taxes, but we weren't fully in the picture then. And it's just playing out exactly to that script, isn't it? I'm so cynical about this and bitter. 19 billion's not actually a lot in the big scheme of things when we owe a couple of trillion.
Correct.
And I think 19 billion might be a week of the National Health Service or something. It's not, it's a little splash, but she's going to use it to take people's life savings off them.
Of course, Labour could argue they've inherited this mess from the Tories, Reem.
And they'd be right. I mean, you know, currently the public sector finances are at the 4th highest in terms of public sector borrowing since records began. So effectively what we're seeing is huge amounts of public spending. Effectively, what we need to say as a country is that we cannot afford the size of the state at the moment. And Labour knew that before they got into power. They knew that was the fact. As has been already said, we know that that was the fact. But ultimately, we're thinking about this from a wider perspective. I think we need to have a national conversation about the fact that we cannot afford current levels of public spending. You know, we spend 4 times the amount of the Ministry of Defence budget on pensions alone.
Right.
We've got an ageing population.
Steady on, I get mine on Tuesday.
We've got, well, look, I mean, a quarter of pensioners are millionaires, and what this effectively means, I'm sure she is, effectively what that means is that
BBC pension, you're welcome.
I don't get a BBC pension. I get my state pension on Tuesday, which I've paid in since 1978.
Well, is Tuesday the first day that you're able to
I'm 66 on Tuesday. I get my £1,000
Congratulations. Very good. Well, this is the point, right? Effectively, very, very wealthy people, very successful people then end up paying out onto what is effectively a benefit. And I think what's unfortunate about the fact of the matter is that
it's not a benefit because pensions you contribute. Benefits you do not contribute.
You do. We all pay national insurance. We're paying currently the highest tax burden since the Second World War.
National insurance isn't even ring-fenced, so national insurance does not
Pensions aren't ring-fenced either. Unfortunately, at the moment, pensions are being paid for by current working people, by hard-working people.
Because it's a Ponzi scheme. It's never been ring-fenced, so it's never been saved and put aside. So whatever I put in 1978 has gone long ago, paying the pensions of people in 1979.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why pensions, I think, we need to do away with. But also, sorry, just to answer your initial question about the fact that public sector spending is huge. We're currently about to go over 100% of GDP. And I think when we're thinking about it from a wider perspective, Labour knew this was going to happen after the election. We knew exactly what was going to happen in terms of our public spending. And we need to ensure that we are, A, able to cut taxes, but B, we have to first cut spending.
Yeah, all right, so briefly, are you suggesting a great pensioner betrayal as a way of fixing the nation's finances?
No, I wouldn't call it betrayal. I would say the government have initially lied to pensioners. I mean, let's be honest, the state pension is not a lot, is it, right?
Yeah.
The state pension is a pittance in comparison to what they could have had.
Exactly. If you are living on the state pension and that's your only income and you've worked hard, say you're a bloke who's now having to struggle till he's 67, 68 to retire, and you've been a physical job all your life, you know, driving a big truck or hodding bricks around or something, and you said, and that's, you never got an occupational pension, and you didn't get enough residual income at the end of the month to stash it away and invest, that is your lifeline in retirement.
There you go. Yeah, Alex Dyke.
Hello.
Britain's broke. Can Labour fix it financially?
Oh, who knows? We all knew that this was going to happen after the election. I mean, they've been getting ready for this for years and years and years, and I don't like it that no matter who's in government, inheritance tax comes in on money we've already paid.
It's a death tax.
That to me is... I don't know why Britain puts up with that and says, OK, we'll do that.
Much higher than in Germany, for example, inheritance tax.
And things like Labour now wanting to put VAT on school fees. Now, I would guess that a third of the people who've got their kids in private school are not rich, they're not even wealthy. They have gone without holidays and new cars and nights out and decent food to put their kids into the private system because they're not a fan of the other system. So if Labour do this, a lot of those children will then go to state schools, which will then overburden the state system. We do need to have a big conversation. Reem's right. I never agree with Reem, but I do about this. A big conversation about tax, because we just lay down and take it.
It's all the politics of envy, isn't it? And it's soft targets. They know they're not going to get the majority of the population will not, you know, kick off because somebody has to pay extra inheritance tax or school fees.
Except that Labour are arguing that take the money from wealthy parents in the private sector and put it into state schools.
Yeah.
and help
And it's
kids
an
at
absolute lie.
state
I
school.
mean, we already
No,
spend
yeah,
huge
that's-
amounts of money on the public sector, and we spend huge amounts of money on public sector
Well-
education. I think Alex is absolutely right. As soon as we start increasing the price of private education, how much is it going to cost for all of those children that can no longer afford private education to now flood the state sector?
People who pay for private health insurance and private education should actually get tax relief on it.
Well,
Exactly.
The other way around. If you
Forget Liz Truss, Liz Kershaw.
if you put your kids into a private school and alleviate the burden on the state and pay those fees out of your taxed income, and you pay health insurance so that you're not taking NHS resources,
OK.
you should be able to claim it on tax just like you can for a company car.
Well, my thanks to the face of Bupa, Liz Kershaw. Lots more to come.